Well, we continue our coverage on the disruptive snowstorm, which hit part of the country over the weekend, and we get an update on the situation with the N3 toll concessions. Thania Dhoogra. Thania, good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. We know that the SANDF has also stepped in, but let's talk about where we are right now in those mop-up operations.
Hi, good evening, Naledi, and good evening to your viewers. Well, the latest that I've received from the team on the ground is that the backlog of traffic that we had, it was almost 30 kilometers of traffic that had been stranded and backlogged on the N3 toll route between Tigela Plaza and Harrismith has been cleared. Those road users who were stranded and stuck in the backlog have all been safely escorted off the N3 toll route. That has given all of the authorities an opportunity to get out there and assess the situation in the area, and they've advised that we can now restore mobility in that area, which now means that road users can move along the entirety of the N3 toll route between Sadara and Heidelberg.
Okay, so there's a lot to talk about here, because one of the things that we heard from the Cogta minister earlier is that there was quite a bit of difficulty in even gaining access from above, even with helicopters, as a result of the mist. So let's talk about some of the challenges that come with dealing with a snowstorm that make it particularly difficult to assist when you do have cars that cannot move at all, and just the difficulty that you face in trying to give them some aid.
Well, one of the most of the difficulties I've had was visibility, not to mention the condition of the road surface. So what we were faced with was the formation of black ice in a lot of areas, which is extremely difficult to detect and means that you can't really get traction while you're traveling. It's one of the reasons why we were also were forced to close Van Riebeeck in the past, that is, because of the safety concerns around that. But we were also faced with the formation of black ice pretty much over an extensive area that the N3 toll route traverses. It's why it was extremely difficult for aerial support to be flown in so that, road users could be evacuated through that mechanism. One of the other areas that we have to deal with is the geometry of the environment, right? And particularly when you're dealing with an area like Van Riebeeck, there aren't wide shoulders. So it's really difficult for emergency services to travel, in between vehicles, especially if they're blocking the entirety of the road surface. It was one of the reasons why it was really difficult for the graders to get in there. They had to create space. They had to move the snow and clear the surface, before progressing. We were also faced with challenges of vehicles that had broken down, run out of fuel, or where, because of the conditions, where road users had abandoned their vehicles, and those then had to be towed out of the way in order to once again clear the roadway, progress the graders, bring assistance to other road users. It's a very complicated procedure. I know it sounds simple, just get in there, move the snow, and take the vehicles out, and I really wish that it was that simple. We also have to deal with the human element, and obviously tensions are running high with stranded motorists, not knowing what to expect, not being able to get access to resources. And at this point, I really have to extend our thank you to the humanitarian aid organizations who stepped in, the Gift of the Givers, Alamdad Foundation, the Red Cross, and other support services, all of the emergency services, the towing operators, and organizations like Search and Rescue South Africa, who also came in with their other more specialized vehicles to help us to get access to road users in conditions that were unprecedented.
I mean, it's a harrowing experience for all of those who were stuck. I mean, you could just imagine if you perhaps are traveling with children, how difficult it is. And we know that we have lost one life, a woman who passed away, unfortunately, after suffering hypothermia. So really, really ugly details that are coming out of there. Talk to me about when you have the SANDF now step in and assist with the mop-up operations. What is it exactly that they would be assisting with?
Well, SANDF as a norm, if they had, if they were stepping in, would be supplementing all of the other emergency services who are on the route and helping with bringing disaster relief, on the ground. I mean, we do have a very well developed snow protocol system, and they are an integral part of that if they are mobilized and activated in order to respond.
Yeah, one of the things we heard from the Cogta minister as well, just moments ago when we spoke to him, is that, there's going to be an issue around the alerts that are given, and really once an alert is out there, what it is exactly that officials should be doing. And he talks about how certainly this particular incident being a teaching moment, saying they've learned quite a bit from it around how to deal with alerts. But he says that the decision then would be, if you've got the alert in time, and the lesson is to close the road if we have a future snowstorm and a similar incident to this. I mean, is there a way around closing the road when an alert is given? So what is it exactly that can be done preemptively?
Well, let me put it this way. A lot is being done preemptively. This is not just a case of us being figuratively caught with our pants down. Literally, like I said earlier, we have a very detailed winter contingency plan and protocol that is implemented. It's part of the route incident management system. It's a tried and tested protocol that is implemented. This was one of those unprecedented events, especially given the area that it covered. But to that extent, maybe if I can just, what we did was, as soon as we received the warnings, preemptive communication is sent out to the public, advising them that that these conditions are possible on the route. For example, please make sure that you are prepared, that you plan ahead, that you are checking official sources, because unfortunately, as much as we would like to not ever close the roads around the country, if it becomes unsafe to allow people to travel on there, the authorities will make that decision and they will close the road.
Yeah.
The last thing you want is somebody to be traveling on an area like Van Rieenen Pass, where you've got really steep inclines and sharp corners where people can't see around the bend, or where they can't get traction and the vehicle goes off the side of the cliff.
Yeah.
And then, in bad weather conditions where we also then can't get emergency services to them, or where those services have to respond, you're also putting their lives at risk. So the mission here is for everybody to be as safe as possible. And sometimes we have to take the tough decisions, which includes closing the road.